but I also mentioned the families, the grieving families, the bereaved families of COVID victims who had recently started what's become known as the National COVID Memorial Wall, soon to be about 500 metres worth of small red hearts covering an expanse of concrete facing the river. And the COVID-19 Bereaved Families for Justice have struggled, shall we say, I think it's fair to say, and we're about to find out, they've struggled to secure anything like the access to senior politicians that David Cameron seems to have enjoyed. I know that Lobby Akinnola is on the line, and you are part of the Families for Justice group. I hope you're not here to tell me off, Lobby. I hope I have fairly represented how you might feel about the unfolding of this story in the context of your continuing battles.
No, not at all, James. Thank you for having me on. I can just echo what you said in that it is somewhat frustrating. We've been trying to speak to the government since June last year, have a meeting with them. We've been turned down, I think, 7 times now. And just to see how quickly they're able to move, I guess, when they have the desire. I guess for us, begs the question, like, why are we not seen as a priority?
What reasons are you being given?
Mostly the main reason we're given that now's not the time, that it's important to first deal with the pandemic and all the consequences of it before trying to, we've been calling for an inquiry into the COVID response, and we've been told time and again that all the resources must be focused on dealing with the pandemic first before there's any inquiry. So it's just interesting to see how
palmed off. I mean,
a little bit.
Matt Hancock can find time for a quiet drink with David Cameron and Lex Greensill, but he can't meet any of you?
Apparently not. I'm not in charge. We don't have access to his calendar, but it would seem that there's no space for us there, unfortunately.
I know you lost your dad, Lobby, and
yes.
And I understand part of your mission. I sympathise with it entirely. And I'm going to choose my words very carefully because I want to get an even better understanding of the importance of this campaign. That nothing can bring your dad back. I know you know that. So what is it that drives your desire for more knowledge and more understanding of what happened? Is it that you need to know whether most of these tragedies could have been avoided, and if so, who bears responsibility for them?
I think some closure is part of the driving force for people of the bereaved. Like, we want to know why our loved ones died. But we've been calling, like I said, we've been calling for this since June last year, and a big part of the inquiry, the drive, was to understand so that we can make sure it doesn't happen again.
Yes.
Since we called for it in June, and then we saw a secondary spike in the UK, which was worse than the first. And now, no one is I'm pleased and so happy to see things like the vaccination rollout being successful, and things making sure that the country is kind of returning back to some sense of normalcy. But at the same time, we're constantly being told that there's information saying that, maybe there's new strains of the virus which might be resistant to vaccination. And I just think that there's still that imperative to make sure that we are as prepared as we can be for anything that comes. And that's another driving force.
That whoever doesn't learn from history is condemned forever to repeat it. You must have followed events over or in the aftermath of Christmas with a particularly heavy heart, even against the backdrop of what you and your family had been through on a personal level.
Yes, it was really difficult because part of the reason why I got involved with the group was the idea that if I can help limit the spread of this pain, and calling to speak to the government and trying to get that response and being told time and again, it feels like we're being kicked into touch. And then just to see the same thing happen again, like you said, just a repetition of history because we haven't taken the opportunities to learn when we had them.
Lobby, take care. You know where we are if there's anything else that we can help you with. And I'm glad that my speculations about how you and your colleagues and your friends in the COVID Bereaved Families for Justice group might have felt about this breaking story. Before you go, is there no way you could have a whip round, offer David Cameron $60 million worth of share options and then get him to sort out a meeting with Boris Johnson and Matt Hancock?
Unfortunately, I don't think the coffers are quite that deep yet. But no, thank you very much for having me.
It's my pleasure.